All right, before we finish book 5, we're going to stop and look over these questions, make sure we're feeling good. Make sure that you're keeping up these questions in class because you will turn this in as your agency grade. Also, this serves as notes to help you digest, comprehend, understand what you're reading, and just to have a record of what you've learned. All right, so review Odysseus's traits using alliteration. So 3 words that start with the same letter. I'm going to let you come up with that on your own, and maybe we can share some great examples. Okay. Where has Odysseus been for 7 years? Well, he has been trapped on the island of Ogygia, which is over here, Ogygia. And where he wants to be at home is right here. So he is far from home. All right. How can Calypso be both a sweet nymph and an antagonist? Well, we need to think about this. And of what we've seen of her so far, she seems to be kind and wonderful and beautiful. So that's something we're going to keep on the lookout for as we finish this book. Who does Zeus send? Hermes, the messenger god. How was Calypso's home described? Well, it's an island that's filled with forest, filled with birds, and she lives in this gorgeous cave that has grapevines. There are springs of natural water coming through, and she's growing herbs and she's growing flowers, but it's also an island, so there's the ocean. So just this gorgeous island paradise is what it sounds like. How is Odysseus described in this section? How is he behaving? Now, we haven't even met him yet, but we've heard that he is not in the cave with Calypso. He is on the shore. He is crying. He is groaning. He is thinking of home. Now, ask yourself, is this how we expect to see him? Why would this great hero who's been through so much, he doesn't appear to be these things we've learned about him. He doesn't appear to be cunning or tricky. He doesn't appear to be that brave. He's on this island paradise and he's just sullen and despondent. Why? That's what we should be asking ourselves as we continue reading book 5. All right. So, the strong god Glittering left her as he spoke. Ooh, God Glittering. That was alliteration. And now her ladyship, Calypso, having given heed to Zeus's mandate, so she has agreed that she's going to do what Zeus said, went to find Odysseus in his stone seat to seaward, tear on tear brimming in his eyes. So we should be picking up that there's a lot of alliteration now. So Odysseus is sitting on some stones, staring at the sea, and he's crying. The sweet days of his lifetime were running out in anguish over his exile, for long ago the nymph had ceased to please. Let's pause there for a second. For long ago the nymph had ceased to please. So at some point she stopped pleasing him. What that tells me is that at some point, she did please him. So at some point in these 7 years, Odysseus was okay with this situation. He liked being there with Calypso, but something has changed and he can't leave. Though he fought shy of her and her desire, he lay with her each night, for she compelled him. But when day came, he sat on the rocky shore and broke his own heart, groaning with eyes wet, scanning the bare horizon of the sea. So, I'm hoping you picked up on this. Odysseus does not want to be here living with Calypso as husband and wife. Calypso is compelling or forcing him to do so. So, he's essentially enslaved. Some people might say a love slave to make it seem less terrible, but it's pretty terrible. Even though she's kind and loving him, is it really love if you're forcing someone to do something against their will? So this is why Odysseus is so upset. And this is what has broken him. He has been trapped. He has been enslaved for 7 years. This is not what he wants. And unlike Calypso, who is immortal and will live forever, he realizes that each day that goes by is another day that he is away from his family, and his chances of ever seeing them again are getting smaller and smaller. So now she stood near him in her beauty, saying, "O forlorn man, be still." Forlorn means extremely sad. "Here you need grieve no more. You need not feel your life consumed here. I have pondered it, and I shall help you go." So she talks to him like she's doing him a favor, which she is, but also she's doing the right thing. She's like, "Okay, fine, you can go." Swiftly she turned and led him to her cave, and they went in, the mortal and immortal. Now, when you're reading something like in a text and you see these dots right here, so that's a period, and then there's 3 dots and ellipses. And what that tells us is that something has been taken out. Luckily, I've read the full story. So what is taken out is that Calypso helps him build a raft, and they spend 4 days building this raft. And on the 5th day, she lets him go. But before she lets him go, she takes him into the cave to say goodbye. And that's what is about to happen here. So what has been missed in these dots is 4 days building a raft to take him home. And as we saw from the map, this is not a small journey. Swiftly she turned and led him to her cave, and they went in, the mortal and immortal. He took the chair left empty now by Hermes, where the divine Calypso placed before him victuals and drink of men. So she's giving him victuals is another word for food. She's giving him food and drink that men would drink. In Greek mythology, the gods drank ambrosia and nectar. They had like a special godly food. While her starving maids brought nectar and ambrosia to her side. Yep. Then each one's hands went out on each one's feast until they had had their pleasure. So they're eating until they're full. And she said, "Move your webcam so that you can read what she said." "Son of Laertes." Laertes is the name of Odysseus' father. "Versatile Odysseus, after these years with me, you still desire your own home, your old home. Even so, I wish you well. If you could see it all before you go, all the adversity you face at sea, you would stay here and guard this house and be immortal. Though you wanted her forever, that bride for whom you pine each day, can I be less desirable than she is? Less interesting, less beautiful? Can mortals compare with goddesses in grace and form?" All right, so let's pause to digest all that Calypso has just said to Odysseus, because that was quite a mouthful. All right, so our question says, why is Calypso confused by Odysseus' behavior? And I'll just repeat what she said. It might be slightly different because I'm reading from this book now. "Son of Laertes, versatile Odysseus, after these years with me, you still desire your old home. Even so, I wish you well. If you could see it all before you go, all the adversity you face at sea, you would stay here and guard this house and be immortal. Though you wanted her forever, that bride for whom you pine each day, can I be less desirable than she is? Less interesting? Less beautiful? Can mortals compare with goddesses in grace and form?" So what Calypso has just said is essentially, I'm trying to protect you. By keeping you here, I'm keeping you safe. If you saw what you're going to have to go through when you leave my island, you wouldn't want to go. And then she gets a little bit petty and she's like, and this wife that you miss so much, she's getting old now. Okay, Odysseus and Penelope are probably in their 40s. Gasp. And Calypso's like, I'm a beautiful immortal goddess. Why do you want to go back with her over me? So this is what is puzzling her. She doesn't understand why he doesn't want her. Odysseus responds. Now, it says to this, the strategist Odysseus answered. So when he responds, he's not necessarily being completely honest. He's trying to answer her in a way that's not going to anger her. He says, "My lady goddess, here is no cause for anger. My quiet Penelope, how well I know, would seem a shade before your majesty." So if Calypso and all of her gorgeous goddessness was standing next to Penelope, Penelope would be in the shade. She wouldn't shine. Calypso would draw all the attention. "Death and old age being unknown to you, while she must die. Yet it is true. Each day I long for home, long for the sight of home." So he's saying, no, it's not that my wife is more beautiful than you. It's that I'm homesick and I want to go home. All right, I want to read a little bit more from the full text because this isn't in the textbook version. He continues and he says, yet it is true, each day I long for home, long for the sight of home. If any god has marked me out again for shipwreck, my tough heart can undergo it. What hardship have I not long since endured at sea in battle? Let the trial come. So this is where we see the Odysseus that we've heard of. He's saying to Calypso, okay, you're saying you want to protect me, but look at all that I have endured. I was at war for 9 years. I've been lost at sea for 10 years. Like, unless I'm actually killed, none of this can break me. Let me go. Let me try to go home. Let me live out this life that I have planned for myself. And so she complies and lets him go. And we will finish book 5 in the next little video.